In this demonstration, we'll look at DNS zones and resource records. Let's begin in Server Manager. We have a domain controller, LUN DC1, and when this domain controller was promoted, the DNS role was installed. So we can right-click and select DNS Manager. And in the DNS Manager, this particular server under the forward lookup zone is responsible for one zone. A DNS zone is an administrative entity to allow the management of resource records for a namespace like a datum. Here we see the ADATM resource records. Now I can make this server responsible for another zone by right-clicking and selecting New Zone. And in the New Zone wizard, there will be three types of zones we can select from. The most common type of zone is a primary zone. A primary zone is a master, editable source of information about a zone. Since this is a domain controller, the information can be stored in Active Directory, and any server that's added to this primary zone will be able to share information and exchange resource records. Another type of zone is a secondary zone. A secondary zone is a read-only copy of the zone. If you're not going to store information in Active Directory, but you'd like to add another server for load balancing or fault tolerance, you'll want to create a secondary zone. Lastly, there's a stub zone. A stub zone is a read-only copy of a primary zone that allows you to quickly identify the authoritative name server for a namespace. For example, the namespace of a company that you just merged with. I'll go ahead and return to primary zone and store the zone in Active Directory. We'll move to the next page of the wizard. On the replication scope page, I'll choose to all DNS servers running on domain controllers in the domain. Your other choice is all DNS servers running on domain controllers in the forest. And then we're prompted for the type of lookup zone we want to create. A forward lookup zone resolves host names to IP addresses and can contain any type of resource record. A reverse lookup zone is an optional zone, and it does the opposite. It translates IP addresses to host names, and some applications use this validation, for example, to reduce email spam. I'll choose a forward lookup zone, and now we're prompted for the portion of the DNS namespace for which the server will be authoritative. I'll put in treyresearch.net. This is not the name of the DNS server. If you have a large number of records, you can actually divide your namespace across servers, and that will give you better performance. The last page of the wizard is dynamic updates. Dynamic updates let the DNS clients register and update their resource records whenever a change occurs. So for me, on this page, there's only one choice. Allow only secure dynamic updates, and that's what's recommended for Active Directory integrated zones. You should not choose to allow non-secure updates. That's not recommended. And if you choose do not allow dynamic updates, it's because you have a small amount of records, they don't change very often, and you're willing to manually update them yourself. That's it. All you need to do is select Finish, and the zone will appear on the server, treyresearch.net. There's a couple of records in there. Now, to test this connection and exchange between my servers, I'll create a new record on the adatum.com zone. You see there's a couple of different records you can choose from, but I will select other record types so you can see all of the different types that are available. A CNAME or canonical record is an alias record. There's a host A record, an IPv4 record, an AAA record is IPv6. There's an MX or mail exchange record, and then there's also a pointer PTR record that's used in the reverse lookup zone. And when you create the record, you'll need to give different types of information. For a host record, I need a name. I'll put www and an IP address 172.16.0.100. Once the record has been created, we can take a look at the adatum.com zone and make sure that the record is there. And then to test this, I'm going to switch to the DNS server for treyresearch.net. It's Tor SVR1. And I want to check to make sure that the adatum.com zone has replicated, including the new record, which it has. So everything appears to be working. In summary, we've looked at DNS zones and DNS resource records. Your course does have a lab on this, so please take a few minutes and give it a try.